Welcome to Unsolved Mysteries. You know, with everything going on and the virus, the shutdowns, and worrying about collapses economically, it's good to take a few moments and just pull back a chair, sit down, relax, and go into the other realm. It's good entertainment. If you have any stories you'd like to send them in, we're more than welcome to share them. And I'm going to start this first program by Touched by an Angel. My own personal experiences, my friends' experiences, my experiences with the Bermuda Triangle, with the government, etc., etc. I think you'll get a great enjoyment out of this. Number two, if you're in a troublesome time, it'll let you know there is hope. Now, it's not a sermon, but I would like to use a couple of scriptures. Hebrews 13:2. Are they not all ministering spirits or guardian angels, sent forth to those that minister unto salvation? Now, there's good as well as bad angels. You know, it can be dangerous to seek metaphysical encounters. You know, also, when you use prescribed or recreational drugs, your mind can go at realm and the doors of the mind can be flown wide open, and you don't want entities to enter. So close encounters are the best kind, for he'll give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. That's Psalms 91:11, by the way. So the first kind of angelic encounter is you feel them, but you don't see them. Jane was expecting her fifth child. She went out on her porch in which to home. There's no railing, and she slipped, and it's about 5 feet to the ground. Suddenly, two strong arms caught her, set her back up, and her baby was born a couple months later, very healthy and strong. Rita was crossing a very busy street when she heard a woman screaming behind her. She looked up and saw a speeding car coming, and closed her eyes and waited for the inevitable. She felt two strong hands lifting her in the air. The crowd was stunned, completely mystified. There's no marks on her. But a bus driver witnessing the event from another viewpoint said he literally saw her floating over the car and placed back on her feet. Now, Susan was a 10-year-old girl living in North Carolina. She ran out the street to catch a ball, and she felt herself being lifted in the air. The car screeched to a halt, and everybody was stunned that the little girl was unharmed. But a couple told everybody they saw her floating in the air. Now, when I was 7 years old in Hollowell, Maine, living on 59 Middle Street, I came home from primary school with my sister Elaine, and Hollowell, by the way, is on a side of a small but steep mountain. And our street, there's a little bit of a hill that blocked view. And when I crossed the street, it seemed like I was floating, and it scared the dog out of me. I ran up the stairs, the car comes screeching down the street and slid about 85 feet with his brakes on. I ran in my bedroom, and the young 18-year-old boy was screaming at my mom that he killed a little kid. Now, one afternoon, Emily was walking to school with her brother. Suddenly, they felt themselves being pushed, and right then and there, a car came and slammed into a fence right where they were standing. Now, the next kind of encounter is hearing a voice. Andrew Smith was hunting with his friend Joe in Jefferson County, Missouri. And the voice said, "Andrew, quick, take a step forward." Just as he did, Joe's foot stumbled and he pulled the trigger, and the gun discharges right where Andrew was standing. David Monroe was flown to Hendersonville, North Carolina by Henry Gardner. They passed Greensville, South Carolina in a Cessna 180. Henry radioed Asheville Airport for instructions. And he said to the control tower, said, "This field is closed. We have too much dense fog. Head back to where you came from, to Greenville." He said, "We can't. I'm on empty." Thinking they were over the Asheville runway, he began to land when a voice said, "Pull this plane up now." When he pulled up, he realized he was over the interstate highway. The voice continued to talk. "If you listen to me, I'll help you get down. Come down just a little. Now over to the right." The fuel gauge was on empty, but the voice continued. "Now bring the nose down slightly. Raise up right now. You're right over the runway, so set it down." The two men saw the runway lights right in front of them. They turned on the radio and said, "Thank you people so much. You probably saved our life." The air control tower replied, "What are you talking about? We lost radio contact with you when you told you returned to Greenville." A doctor received an emergency call, so he ran out and got in his car, cranked the engine, and was about to put it in reverse, when a voice said, "Stop! Get out of the car and look behind you." Though in a hurry, he obeyed the voice. He saw the neighbor's 2-year-old son playing with a ball sitting right behind his back bumper. So let's go to the third. Angels are still invisible, but people can actually feel them. Tess finished playing with her friend in Tennessee and was running home. She jumped over a little ditch, but though she did, something pushed her back in the air. She tried again, same thing. She could not jump over the ditch. Then she stopped and looked. On the spot where she landed was a coiled rattlesnake. Emily was preparing dinner one frustrating day when Diana, a little girl, was playing with a toy horse all over the kitchen. Emily almost tripped over her a couple of times. Suddenly, she felt her whole arm stop her in midair when she was going to push her little daughter, like some invisible block. She looked up and saw the cellar door was open. Had she pushed Diane, the little girl, would have fallen down the stairs. Mary Stebling, she was another young mother, was having an aggravating day over noisy neighbors. Huffed out of the bedroom, down the hall kitchen, she reached out to give the basement door a good old slap. Puzzled, her hand came back. Someone was grabbing it, though she couldn't see them. Then she saw her 2-year-old daughter standing on the top stair of the basement. That leads us to the fourth. A person still don't see the angels, but others do. John P. Patton, a missionary to New Hebrides Islands, was hated by the village witch doctor. One night he came with a group of men to kill them. But then they stopped, they looked suddenly perplexed, and they shrugged their shoulders and walked away. Years later, when the chief was converted, he said, "Why didn't you attack me years ago?" He said, "We saw hundreds of big men in some kind of white uniform, and they had swords in their hands, and we were scared." Alice was witnessing door to door in a very hostile neighborhood. She walked past a very vicious guard dog who suddenly stopped, whimpered a little bit, and then wagged his tail. She walked past him, and then she went up to the stairs, and the lady said, "I'm so glad that you two came to visit me. I've set a place for us to eat supper." She said, "Us too, it's just me." She said, No. Introduce me to your handsome friend in that white suit sitting beside you." So that gives us the fifth encounter. Angels rescuing from dangerous situations. A 12-year-old, Mark Durrance, went out to play. Leaping over a drainage ditch, he felt a sharp pain in his leg and a big rattlesnake was injecting his venom. Then the deadly venom caused him to almost blank out. His mother, Debbie, was putting away the dishes when the oldest son shouted, "What's wrong? What's wrong, Mark?" Mark was standing in the doorway and collapsed. The doctor said, how could Mark walk 150 yards, climb 13 stairs, when he had that much venom in him? The little boy said, "A man in white picked me up. He said, I'm going to be real sick, but don't worry." Then he carried me upstairs, and I never saw him again. Some years, I was working on a TSQ-46. It's a top-secret electronic interceptor. It's very, very powerful, with 2 million amps. That's how powerful it was, even though it's mobile. They have antennas that you crank up, and they telescope one after the other. And I had my hand inside of one of the holes carrying a radome when I felt two hands, and these were not gentle either. They grabbed me and threw me. I was about 15 feet up, and I landed on my back in the sand, and it wasn't hurt at all. And then I looked, and the whole thing collapsed. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't have my left hand today. Now, I want to tell you another story. It's about the safety inspector. Jane Heyman was swimming in the Ozarks. Her sister Pat and 2 girlfriends were sunning themselves on the beach when all of a sudden Jane swam out too far and could not get back. She started hollering, but her girlfriends could not hear her. Then she saw this gentleman swimming through the lake. He said, "I'm the safety inspector, and one of my jobs is to save people from drowning." When they got back to the beach, Pat said, "What happened to you?" She said, "I almost drowned if it wasn't for the lifeguard." The women looked perplexed. She said, "There's no lifeguard. There's no footprints in the sand." And when they went up to the office says, "We don't have safety inspectors. In fact, it's the season we don't have lifeguards." Joan was taking care of her 5 younger brothers and sisters in a big old farmhouse. when her little brother in North Dakota started playing with matches. The hay was there and the tinder wood was very dry. And all of a sudden the flames blew up, engulfing the children. And then a man stood there and blew them out. How can a man blow out these flames? And when they looked up to see him again, there was no one there. So this goes to our sixth encounter, angel and messengers. Reverend O'Keefe Cork of Ireland, he was summoned by a handsome young man. And the man said, "Would you please follow me? Someone really needs you badly." He followed the young man to a poor part of town. And there in a shack, the young man just stood there, opened his hand and motioned him to go in the door. When he did, he was astonished to find a dying woman. She said, "I was praying that God would send an angel so he would come and pray to God for me and for me to God so I don't have to miss heaven." And there was no one there. He went out, she went out, he was by himself. Or was he? So let's go to these angelic encounters while dying. The facial expressions on these people are awesome. There's no sign of horror, no sign of fear. Let me give you one of these. An 11-year-old boy was dying. He said, "Look, Mom, there's angels all around us, and one of them is more beautiful than the other." I was with my friend. He was a pastor in Detroit, Michigan. He said, "Would you come to the hospital with me? I got a call." We went there, and everything seemed normal. And a nurse came out and said, "Listen to this. There's a lady singing in Swahili." He said, "I know that lady. She's born and raised in Detroit. What's this language she's singing in?" And the nurse says, come, let's see her." The room was a little brighter, not real metaphysically bright, but brighter. And the woman had the most beautiful expression on her face, but she was dead. Finally, people perceive angels as that. Angels. A group of Satanists were creeping up a Christian home to kill them. Emily, one of the members of the occult, was in the lead. And all of a sudden, a large man came out. He had a white uniform. And he says, "Why don't you give your heart to the one who really loves you? If you try to hurt that Christian family, we will destroy you." So be not forgetful to entertain angels. For some of you will entertain angels unaware. That was strangers, by the way. Who only knows what. But always remember that story. And I'll close with this one. I was in Texas City, Texas. I had a meeting with Marvin, Reverend Marvin. We call him Starvin Marvin. And it's a good meeting, and it's too far to get back to Lufkin. And it was about 1 a.m. So he said, "Just spend the night in the evangelist quarters, and in the morning, why don't you take your check and cash it?" It's a real good check. And by good, I mean back then $500 a week was real good pay. I'm not a TV evangelist by any shot of the imagination. And then the morning, I went to the bank, cashed the check, got in my car, and I forgot to use the restroom. So when I got on the main highway, I pulled off at the first truck stop. And I pulled in, had a little old work van, and there was a man sitting with a trucker showing off the commando knife. Now, being in all four branches, I recognize it. It's one the Screaming Eagles, Airborne's 101st Division used. I went to the restroom, came back out, got in my van, ready to crank the engine, when the guy who had the knife come banging on the window. He said, "Please roll your window down." So I said, "Well, sure." So I listened to him. He said, "I'm going to L.A. because I got a job there." He said, "I was hitchhiking and fell asleep. This trucker dropped me off here. He was about 80, 90 miles away from I-10. He said, "Please," he said, "could you give me a ride?" Well, I had my pocket full of money, and I know he was armed and I wasn't. But I thought, well, I remember the little story of that angel and the women not giving him anything, so I said, "Hop in." I no sooner got back on the highway, and he said, "Please, I got to go to the restroom. I haven't eaten in 3 days." He said, "I have to use it bad." The trucker gave me a lot of beer. So I was a little aggravated, but I pulled off. He said, "Now you're going to wait for me, aren't you?" And I said, "Sure, I'll wait." He said, "Listen, I can't trust people. So do you mind if I take my bag with me?" It was a paper bag. It smelled. It's probably dirty old clothes. But sure, I'll take your paper bag. He got halfway to the restroom and he stopped. Came back. "I got to trust people. You're not going to take it out of you." I said, "I'm not going to take your bag. Just relax. I'll be here when you come out." He came out and we traveled to the loop on Houston. Still, it's very far my 10. There's no way you could have got a ride. And though I was way out of my way, I went west, got into I-10. There's a small hotel and a little restaurant, so I pulled off. And I said, listen, I'm going to give you $100, and I want you to spend the night at that hotel, wash these clothes. You smell. I don't mean to be rude here. And I said, get up in the morning, get a good breakfast. What's left over, and there should be plenty, I want you to buy some granola bars, some fruit, and fruit juice. You can get to California on that. Trust me, I know. So he actually broke down and started crying. And it really embarrassed me. Here's a screaming eagle. Guy probably could break me in half. And I said, look, shut up. You're a screaming eagle and I'm a Marine. You're embarrassing me. He said, stop it. I said, first place, this is not a gift. He said, I thought you were going to give me $100. I said, I take it back. I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to make you earn it. He said, well, what in the world do you want me to do? I said, do you know anybody on earth that had a $100 prayer? He said, well, not really. I said, well, neither do I, but I'm getting one today. I want a $100 prayer, and I want it now, soldier, so start praying. Man, when he cut loose, my hair and my back stood up. I've never heard something like that. When he was through, he said, thank you so much, but I want to write down my sister's telephone number. He said, when you get to Lufkin, would you give her a call and tell her brother's okay? My name is Joe. So when I went to Lufkin, I called the number, and a young lady answered, and she said, sir, this can't be the right number. I don't have a brother. So as I close right now, these unsolved mysteries, some are going to be always unsolved. It's like going to see a magician. You may not know how he does his tricks. And I don't want to know how. I want the entertainment. But I'll try and explain the best I can. I'm really working hard on the Bermuda Triangle. I was there. And some of the things that happened still have not been published, even though they're declassified. And it's really a good mystery. This is Ken Small with Unexplained Mysteries. Until next week, God bless.